Okay, it just started.
Okay, so the first thing with a chuck is you have to make sure that you have enough clay for however tall your bottle is. So my neck on my bottle is really freaking tall, okay? So I have to make sure that the thing I throw next can handle this being turned upside down and not touching the neck to the bottom of the piece. So that's why I'm using so much clay. I actually am using 2 blocks of clay to make sure that I can get it deep enough and still thick enough to support this piece upside down, okay? So I'm gonna have to take a minute and center this, and this is gonna take a minute. And when you center a bigger piece of clay, go a little slower than you normally would. I like to. Hey Brian, what's up?
Hi, what are you up to?
I am demoing how to throw a chuck and videotaping. He's like, oh. Okay. So do you remember when I told you guys the main time I use a cone is when I've got a lot of clay? I did say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is when I use a cone the most. It's because it helps to get it all into the center. And you will have to use more clay than you used on your bottle. Okay, probably double, at least. At least. And if you do a giant cone like this clay is a little hard, if I'm honest. You might end up having to use your forearm to push it down eventually. So as I push down, I maybe shouldn't have been on the rolly chair.
Do you want to stop? Yeah, I can switch you.
I mean, I'm not being pushed around yet, but I feel like it might happen. Yeah, it's fine. Lots of, this is where it's all those skills I've taught you guys about grounding in and making sure your legs are tight and your core is tight. This is where it gets real. This clay is hard. And it's got a few air bubbles. Okay, we're almost there. Don't want to hold the form.
Yeah, I can switch you.
I am moving, aren't I?
You definitely are.
I am.
I'm waiting
It's
for
kinda
it to just
weird.
go out from underneath you, but you just face
I'm
plant
moving.
into the clay.
Hey, thanks for that.
On videotape.
Gosh, you're kind of a punk, Aaron.
You are.
He's all visualizing it. Wouldn't it be great if this happened? Yes, actually, let's switch. Although this is short, so I'm gonna struggle here too. Why did I wear a sweater today? It is. Thank you, Di. Are a few air bubbles. Okay, once you get it centered, mostly. Man, there's a lot of air bubbles in there. It's fine. Lots of energy. I got my workout in for the day. I mean, technically. Okay. Now you're gonna open. When you open more clay, you don't necessarily have to use your fingers, okay? I've seen potters that are throwing with a ton of clay that they will open with their elbows, fists. I've seen a lot of things, weird things over the years. People using weird things, but I use a beak. So what I mean by beak,
Shut up.
this wheel has 2 speeds, fast and super slow. No. Whatever. Okay, so I use a beak. So I go like this. And you can use whatever method. I start off with my fingertips, just like normal. But eventually I have to start overlapping my fingers to have enough strength to push down. Does that make sense? Now, the whole point of this is you're not gonna open like you normally would on a, like a bowl or a mug or a vase or bottle or whatever. You're gonna go down as far as you need to to make sure your bottleneck can fit in upside down. Okay, so right now I'm going all the way to the bottom. And now I'm gonna do what's called a power pull. A power pull is done on the left instead of the right. So you know how I've always taught you guys to pull here? Okay, I'm gonna teach you the exact opposite. And some of you do it already and don't even realize that it's not the right way. That's always a fun day. Just explain that one. So a power pull is done with the left heel being pushed on the outside and your right hand being pushing from the inside. So I'm literally squeezing those together and pulling in one giant pull. And so if you guys can remember, the right quadrant, the bottom right quadrant is the control side. The bottom left quadrant is the power side. And so that's why people who pull on the left are able to pull so fast. So whenever you pull on the left, if you've never done it before, you're gonna find that the wall raises twice as quickly, okay? Because you have twice as much exertion going against it. So now, what I need to do is, number one, I need to make sure that the bottleneck can fit all the way down. And number two, I wanna make sure that my wall stays at least a 3/4 of an inch, maybe even thicker. Okay, so all I'm doing is thickening this rim up, and then I'm gonna slope it. Does that make sense? Try to give it a nice grade. And then technically what I would encourage you to do is use a hairdryer and just kind of dry it off a little bit till it's a little bit less wet, okay? Because this is obviously way more wet than I like it to be. And then I gotta do some measuring here. So I'm gonna stop my wheel. I'm gonna use whatever tool you can find. Okay, so it's that deep. Just need to make sure it'll fit. Hooray, it fits. Okay, so take the bottle, turn it upside down. Oh, it's not tall enough. I've measured poorly. Okay, in that case, raise the wall. It's not the end of the world. Try especially to get it from the bottom. And push it on up. I'm gonna go ahead and slap that some more. See if I did anything. Anybody tell if I did anything? Guess we'll find out. I did something. It's not enough. I really don't want that into that goop at the bottom because it'll disintegrate your rim. So you really want to pay attention that you're not gonna, and also maybe soak out the water at the bottom. That's a good idea. And if I just by squeezing this rim, I might get the height that I need. Okay. Then use a hairdryer, otherwise it's just really sticky. It's not a big deal other than, you know how clay can be when it's wet clay sticks and then it's really annoying to try to pull it off. Okay, it's long enough, finally. Okay, now from here, I'm gonna wanna move back and look at it from the side and make sure it's like flush. If I feel good about that, I'm just gonna wiggle it on. Okay, suction it off. Then, a normal trim. That's it. Okay, but the only other thing I would say about this is because it's not quite as secure as maybe your other pieces have been, I like to keep one hand here, just in case. You don't have to, but I don't know. Sometimes I get a little panicky. You know how it goes. And keep in mind, from your first bottle that you cut open, more than likely, this part right here is too thick, okay? So you're gonna probably need to spend some time trimming out that edge right through here. Now it's not 100% centered in there, and if I really wanted to make sure it was, do the same thing, and then fix it. And keep going. Keep in mind that when the wheel stops, the If something is just barely off, you're not gonna see it when it's stopped. Okay, so don't panic too much if it's not 100% perfect. That is what happens when it's too wet. So I can tell you already, my base right there is probably a little bit too thick. That corner edge. So I'm gonna get rid of that. And it just kind of like finishes out the form. Makes it look so much better to carve all that away. She is.
You did say carve all of
It
that
was so
away.
pretty.
I've never done that before. Oh, you just got on.
Dun, dun,
You
dun.
weren't watching, were you?
No, you just said that you never done it before.
I've never done that before.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks. Well, that's fun. It was a good thickness though, right? Did you see that? That was
Yeah.
cool. Huh. I don't know why I did that. Probably too dry. We're just gonna pretend like that didn't happen. Seal that back on.
Cut it out in post.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I really wasn't that attached to this one anyway. But I'm glad you guys can see that even experience that can happen. That is weird. I've never had that happen before. And I'm gonna go ahead and trim the bottom. And now I know it's not very thick, so don't do that. Gosh, I might have to do another video tomorrow. I don't want that on camera, recorded for life. Hi, Alyssa. You just missed my big mess up. You're so lucky. The rest of these guys got to laugh at me. It's okay. It's okay.
Don't worry, this is Downey's April Fools.
Yeah, I was just messing with you guys. Gosh, take a joke. Definitely. I scored it ahead of time. That's what I did. Just to mess with you guys, see if you'd cry a little bit when the bottle broke. I do enjoy that part though. Like when I cut something in half in the ceramics one and they get all cry. Remember when you could make nothing?
Yeah.
Doesn't it feel good you can make stuff now?
Yeah, I've heard I still can't.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Okay, the other last thing I wanted to show you is before you take this off, it's a good idea to actually poke a hole through the chuck because that'll release some of the air and the pressure that's gotten built up. But do it at angles so you don't, you know, stab your piece. I mean, can't get worse than what I did today, but, and I do it in a few
Don't
places.
test
And then
it.
the last thing, you're gonna wanna twist. So twist it up and off, and then if you did accidentally stab a little bit, you just buff it out. Not a big deal. Almost everything's fixable. Maybe, we'll see. I mean, it's back on. Who knows if it'll stay. I will wrap this in a wet paper towel and bag it, just to see if I can get it to adhere. If I can't, move on. That's life, right? It'll probably break during a raku firing, I can tell you that much. Even if it survives the first kiln, it'll probably break in the raku. Because the raku is such high temperatures going in and out that any problems will surface. Which is why I want your best bottle to be the bottle that you raku. The most consistent, the most even, the one with the least amount of problems. And wheel thrown. Those are usually the ones that make it the best, okay? So, with that being said, try to get your bottles to a good phase today or plan on coming after school because spring break is 9 days and you don't want any project to be left alone for 9 days. Either that or take it home so that you are not worried about something drying out before you get it trimmed, okay? That was you or me? Okay, we're good. Question?